Good morning, dear children. Today we are going to revise the lessons. Three questions written by Leo Tolstoy. Once there lived a king who had three questions in his mind. He wanted to know answers for all the questions. Why he wanted to know the answers? Because he thought that once if he knew answers for all the questions, he would never fail in any aspects. Many wise men came to the kingdom and answered the questions differently. But the king was not satisfied with their answers. Therefore, he went to a forest to meet the hermit, who is known for his wisdom. The king wore a normal dress and he met the hermit. The king asked the questions, but the hermit didn't reply a word. He was digging the ground. Seeing the old man, the king helped the hermit by digging the ground. There came a bearded man who had a wound in his stomach. The king and the hermit removed the man's cloth and washed the bloods away. They all slept together. On the next day, the bearded man was asking sorry to the king. The king was shocked because he didn't know anything about the bearded man. Then the bearded man explained that he was an enemy of the king and he wanted to kill the king. But he was got by the bodyguards and they had made a wound in his stomach. Later, the king saved the life of the bearded man, who felt very sorry, and he asked the king to allow him as a servant forever, and he also requested his sons to follow the same. The king was amazed and felt very happy that he made a peace with an enemy which he didn't expect at all. Then the hermit explained answers for the three questions. Let's look at some new words. Council, a group of people chosen to give advice or to make rules. You can frame sentence like that. Mr. Ravi is a member of the council. Wise, intelligent. Dr. ABJ Abdul Kalam is an intelligent person. Hermit, a person who lives alone and leads a simple life. King met a hermit in the forest. Wisdom, it is the ability to know what is true or right. Common sense or the collection of one's knowledge. Hermits are known for their wisdom. Wood or woods, a small forest. Hermits live in wood or forest. Fainted, lost consciousness. Yesterday she fainted on the ground. Seized, took by force. The police seized the property. Faithful, loyal and true. Dog is the most faithful animal in the world. Why did the king want to know answers to three questions? The king wanted to know the answers to three questions because he thought that he would never fail once he knew the answers to the questions. Why was the king advised to go to magicians? The king was told that in order to decide the right time for doing something, it was necessary to look into the future. Since only magicians could do so, he was advised to go to magicians. In answer to the second question, whose advice did the people say would be important to the king? In answer to the second question, some people suggested to seek advice of counselors, the priest or the doctors or the soldiers. Suggestions were made in answer to the third question. To the third question, some said science, others chose fighting, and yet others said religious worship. Did the wise man win the reward? If not, why not? No, the wise man did not win the reward because their answers were so different from each other and the king was not satisfied with their answers. How did the king and the hermit help the wounded man? The king and the hermit removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach. The king washed and covered it with his handkerchief and kept on dressing it until the bleeding stopped completely. Who was the bearded man? Why did he ask for the king's forgiveness? The bearded man was an enemy of the king. He wanted to take revenge of his brother's death by killing the king and taking away all his property. Unexpectedly, he was saved by the king. So, the bearded man asked for the king's forgiveness. The king forgave the bearded man. What did he do to show his forgiveness? The king showed his forgiveness by promising the man that he would send his doctor and servants to look after him, and also promised to return him all his property. The poem The Squirrel was written by Mildred Bowes Armstrong. Read the poet's name and you can write 3 or 4 times in your rough notebook. He wore a question mark for tail, an overcoat of grey. His tail appears like a question mark when he sits up. Since it has grey color of fur, it looks like it wears an overcoat of grey. He liked to tease and play, and if he ran around his tree, he went the other way. The squirrel liked to tease and play, and if you are going around him, he will run away in other direction. Next we are moving to the supplementary reader, the first lesson, The Tiny Teacher. Ant is the smallest and the most intelligent creature in the world. The ant uses its feelers or antennae to talk to other ants by passing messages through them. It lives in ant hills. An ant hill has hundreds of little rooms and passages. In some rooms, the queen ant lays eggs. Others are nurseries for the young ones called grubs. The worker ants spend most of their time in searching of food. Some rooms are allotted for storehouse, whereas some rooms are allotted for the soldiers. That is called barracks. Their life is very peaceful. They won't fight with each other. The queen ant is the mother of the entire population. It lays eggs in many rooms. Soon the eggs hatch and grubs come out. Soldiers have to guard them, feed them, clean them and carry them for airing and exercise sunshine. The new ants learn their duties from old ants as workers, soldiers, builders and cleaners. The ant hill is not only for the home for the ants. It also home for the lesser breeds and beetles, greenfly. Lessons we need to learn from the ants are hard work, sense of duty, discipline, cleanliness, care for the young ones, a firm loyalty to the land where they live. What ways is an ant's life peaceful? The ants live in peace because each one does its share of work honestly, wisely, and bravely. They don't interfere in the work given to the others. They never fight in their group. How long does it take for a grub to become a complete ant? A grub takes 3 to 6 weeks to become cocoons and then to be a complete ant. Why do the worker ants carry the grubs about? The grubs are carried about daily for airing, exercise, and sunshine. What jobs are new ants trained for? The new ants are trained for learning their duties from old ants as workers, soldiers, builders, cleaners, etc. Name some other creatures that live in ant hills. Some other creatures that live in ant hills are beetles, lesser breeds of ants, and the open fly. Mention 3 things we can learn from the tiny teacher. Give reasons for choosing these items. We can learn from the tiny ants the lessons of hard work, sense of duty and discipline, cleanliness, loyalty and care for the young ones. These lessons are necessary for the happiness and smooth working of the society. Dear children, go through the lessons and poem at once. Read the name of the poet of the poem. Thank you and take care. All the best for the test.